Welcome, everyone. I hope you have just enjoyed coffee and bagel just now and spent some time meeting other attendees. We'll be randomly selecting one participant as a winner for the $50 Grubhub gift card. The winner will be receiving an email from us in a few minutes, so please be on the lookout for that. We'll announce all three winners at the end of the day today on the conference platform main page, so please continue participating in Coffee and Bagel during each break throughout the conference and enjoy the opportunity to meet other attendees. The session you have just joined is titled Exploring Your HAF Data with Data Views and will be presented by Joe Colliar at ProLink Solutions. As a reminder, you are on track 2, ProLink Plus HAF track. And before we start the session, I'd like to take a few minutes to cover some housekeeping items. First, on the right side of your screen, you have access to the chat feature. This particular session has been pre-recorded, and the speaker, Joe, is in the audience right now, monitoring the chat. So please feel free to post any questions or comments throughout the session in the chat, and Joe will be responding to you in real time. Please note that your posts are visible to all other attendees. Also, on the right side of your screen, you have access to the poll feature. Throughout the session, 3 poll questions will be displayed one by one. When you provide your response each time, you'll be able to see the poll result in real time. So please, we encourage you to participate. This is where you can download a copy of Joe's PowerPoint. You can download anytime before, during, or after his session. So now, without further ado, I will introduce the session speaker, Joe Colliar. He is Principal Business Consultant at ProLink Solutions. Joe joined ProLink in early 2020 and has been serving customers in both ProLink HFA and ProLink Plus products. Joe will be covering the topic of exploring your HAF data with data views today. So Joe, please take it away.
All right, thank you, Ryan. And thank you, everybody. Welcome to this session on ProLink Plus. Over the next hour or so, we're going to take a look at how you can explore your HAF data with data views. So let's get right to it. So the content I'm going to split up into 3 different lessons today. The first thing we'll look at is data view basics. So what is a data view? How do I get to them? What kinds of sort of simple things can I do with them? And we'll also take a look at a special data view in the system, the CDF data view. After that, we'll move into some data view extras. So we'll get a little more complicated, some of the more advanced features that our data views have. And finally, we'll finish with creating ad hoc reports in data views. So you've got a wealth of data at your fingertips. What kinds of custom reports can you create from that? So let's hop into data view basics here. So after completing this, you'll be able to get to a data view, right? Can't use data views if you can't get to them. Ideally, you'll understand the data that is sort of driving the data views, what they are built off of. We'll be able to pick a particular view of your data view or a particular report built off of your data view for further analysis. We'll learn how to export data from a data view. We'll learn how to click on a row in a data view, what happens when you do that. And again, we'll touch on the purpose of a special data view in the system, that is the CDF data view. So let's start. What is a data view? So data views in the system are essentially it's configurable reporting and insight made from a data set that is built entirely upon data in the ProLink Plus system. It's all real-time current data at your fingertips. So changes are made in the system. Those updates will be reflected immediately in data views. Data views give you the ability to create your own personal custom reports, or also custom reports that can be viewed agency-wide, again, that can be accessed in real time. They give you the power to sort your data sets, filter them, group your data. And lastly, when you are working in data views, if you are playing around with your data, do something fancy, have a complex, set of sorts and filters on there, data views will actually remember what you have done when you come back. So again, pretty powerful set of features built into data views. Let's actually take a look at the different data views that are available in ProLink Plus. So really quickly, we'll just kind of go through. You can see in this screenshot here, hopefully you can see my cursor. We've got a data views menu panel, we call it. And underneath that, all of these different listed items are different data views. And each of these data views are basically, it's a different data set. And so the first one we'll talk about is the checklist items data view. Notice I'm skipping over the CDF one. So the checklist items data view it's kind of what the name says. It's a data set of all checklist items on all applications for all programs in the system. Whether or not the checklist item is required, whether or not the checklist item has been completed, that doesn't matter. Every single checklist item that exists in the system is available in the checklist items data view. This data view can be really helpful for identifying checklist items that might be coming due, things we need to take a look at and get done, things that are past due, things that might be holding us up, things that might be assigned to me that I need to work on. Some of the uses for the checklist items data view. Next one we'll talk about is the disbursements data view. So again, as the name implies, this is a data view built on a data set of all disbursements in the system, regardless of what kind of disbursement it is, whether it's a one-time payment or an ongoing monthly payment, whether it was created by the system. None of that matters. Every disbursement that exists in your system will be in the disbursements data view. This is really handy for reporting on how much money you've gotten out the door, how much money you dispersed for a particular program over a period of time. You can also use it to identify, hey, there are disbursements that should have gone out the door, last month. Let's follow up on those. So another handy data view. All right, moving on. The next one we'll talk about is the expenses data view. So you can use HAF funds to cover mortgage payments, right? But you can also use it for eligible property expenses, eligible homeowner property expenses, right? And so our system allows homeowners to enter those eligible expenses to be paid for by HAF funds. And all the different eligible expenses that are entered by homeowners or by you guys through the agency portal will show up in this data view. So you can use this to identify, it looks like a lot of people are behind on water to this particular water utility. Maybe we've got, a bigger issue we should look on or look into. Again, just another way to kind of take a deeper dive into some of the things that are coming into your HAF program. The next data view, the homeowner applications data view. So this may be the one that is most commonly used. This is a data set of all the different homeowner applications that have come into the system. It doesn't have program specific detail. So it's homeowner applications at the top level. It'll have one record per applicant that has come into the system. That record will also have co-borrower and spouse information if applicable. You can use it to report on, again, your applicant pool as a whole. So these are the folks that are coming in the door looking for assistance. It's not going to tell you what kind of assistance they're looking for, but it's going to tell you, here's sort of the entire pool of folks that have come in the door. If you're looking for more program specific information, we'll talk about these in just a minute here, but the data views that have the word program in them are the ones you'll want to look at. So again, homeowner applications, data view, sort of top level user profile type information for all the different applicants that have come into your program. The next data set, notes and tasks. Again, as the name implies, or data view, excuse me, as the name implies, this is a data set of all notes and tasks that have been created on applications in the system. Potentially, you've got some sort of a process where back office users are creating a specific note when something happens. So you can use this data view to search across all notes in the system to identify applications where that note has been entered. You can also use it to identify tasks. So these are things that should happen that may be overdue, may be completed. If you want to use that as some sort of reporting metric, you know, how many tasks are we completing in a given time frame, or how many tasks are a certain set of users or even third-party service provider completing over a given period of time. Or if you happen to be a doer in the system, you can also use this data view to find the tasks that are assigned to you, so you know the things you have to do. And of course, there's much more you can do with this data view. All right, a couple more here. So program qualifications. This is the data set that shows you all of the essentially program applications. So in the system, you can have one application going through multiple programs. Every time an application goes through a program, so every time someone applies for, say, HAF benefits, or every time someone applies for, say, you're running an expenses only program, you would see a record in this data set for that program application. So one particular person, one applicant, may show up more than one time in this data set if they've applied to more than one program that you're running. In this data set, you can see approvals, denials, appeals, again, that kind of program specific thing. So what specific benefits are you asking for? Have you been approved? How much were you approved for? What stage are you in? Things like that. You can also use this data set for, you know, demographic type reporting. So socially disadvantaged is a big area of focus in HAF programs. So this could be the data set that you use. So of everyone that has applied for our, you know, top level HAF program, let's identify those that are socially disadvantaged. You would use this data view for that. Moving on to the next data view, program stages. So this, in my eyes, is kind of the most complicated data view to use. So every time an applicant goes through a stage change or a status change in the system, so you submit your application and you are in the first stage and you have a status of active, you get a row in this data set. And then you answer your pre-qualified or your pre-qualification questions. You're still in the first stage, you haven't submitted your application yet, but all of a sudden we update your status to pre-qualified. So if you look here in the screenshot, notice that this is almost like a, well, in fact, it's not almost like, it is a chronological record of sort of how every application has proceeded through every program in the system. So this data set or data view is really, really useful for reporting on, let's say, how long is it taking applications to move through stage 3, right? Or let's see where folks are ending up inactive. Let's see what stage is most common for people to sort of drop out of the running. Let's see where we're hitting bottlenecks, right? So this is the data view you'll use, excuse me, to identify how's everybody going through all of our different programs. Again, a lot of power in this data set. Yeah, so again, we'll probably get back into this one a little bit later on, but that's program stages. All right, and there's one more to discuss, and that is the CDF records data view. So I skipped over this one initially. This is a data set of all CDF records in the system. So we've got outgoing CDF records we send to servicers. We've got incoming CDF records. But also there is the case where we have CDF records queued up that we want to send to servicers. So this is a special data view in that it lets you see all the CDF records we have queued up and then actually export those into an Excel file to get ready to send out to servicers. So you can use this just for research and reporting and just use it to view different CDF records, but whoever at your agency or whichever service provider is responsible for managing the CDF process. In other words, getting CDF records out of the system is also going to use this data view to complete that process. So this is, and it's kind of a hybrid data view. It's, again, it's a great data set, lots of good information in there, but it's also going to be used for the administrative task of actually managing those CDF records and getting them out of the system. So I'm not going to jump into that today. I think that's more of a specialized kind of training, but that's the one sort of additional feature in this data view. But now that we are through that piece, let's go over just what the data view screen looks like, some of the features available across all data views in the system. So the first thing is this view selection. So again, the terminology can be a little confusing. You create views on a data view. Another word I use for views here is report. So you can create custom reports, essentially custom sets of columns, maybe filter criteria, maybe a pre-sort you want baked in there. Those will all those things that have been created are accessible in this view dropdown. And again, this is on all different data views or all data views in the system. And then the second thing I'll point out on this slide is the quick search functionality. So there's this text entry box over here, and you can type, we can type any sort of search criteria, hit this blue kind of arrow button, and the data set you're working with will automatically be filtered by your search term. The fields that will be searched when you do this are here in the parentheses next to quick search. As you can see in this example, there are a couple different search criteria. The second one is cut off. So if you're not quite sure what the quick search is going to take into consideration, you just mouse over it and you'll get a little tooltip that will show you every field that's included in that quick search. So it looks like that was the first tip. Second tip for quick search, it is something that is configurable by an administrator, by a system admin. So, you know, if there is a data view that you are consistently finding yourself, you know, filtering by some particular field and it's not in quick search, you can ask a system admin. You can say, hey, it would be nice if homeowner last name was something I could quick search by. That's something an admin can do for you. And we're not going to cover that in today's class necessarily, but there are sort of ways to customize data views behind the scenes. All right, let's dig a little bit further into the data view screen. So every data view also has a top toolbar, different sets of options available to you. So let's start with the new button here. So this is only active on the homeowner applications data view. But if you are in the homeowner applications data view and have the right privileges in the system, in other words, if you're allowed to create an application, if you click new there, you will actually be redirected to the enter new homeowner application screen. So that's what new is going to do for you. Next, View Manager. So this allows you to create private views or your own personal custom reports. It also enables you to see the details of all the different custom reports on a particular data view you're looking at. So if there is a custom report you're looking into and you're like, oh, I wonder why I'm only seeing 20 rows when the data set should be 2,000 rows, you'll actually be able to see what kind of filtering is going on behind the scenes through this view manager. So we'll go into much more detail on this later. The export button. So clicking this will export every row in your active data set to an Excel file in XLSX format. Next button, turn filter in grid on. So you can filter on every column displayed in your data view, and you can turn those filters on and off depending on if you want to use them or not. This button will toggle those on and off. The last button on the toolbar, this only shows up on the CDF data view. It's the export / mark as exported button. This is how you will export those CDF records from the system and actually get them ready to go out to servicers. So again, other than mentioning that right now, we're not going to go much deeper into that. All right, and now, so those are the features of sort of data views at a glance. One last mention, one last little dive into the CDF records data view. So, and again, this is more for CDF admins, but just kind of to let you guys know what's going on here. So the CDF data view comes with some predefined data sets. And for admins, I wouldn't recommend sort of playing around with these. These enable the system functionality built on top of it to work. So if you notice, we've got a series of queued some type of record data view here, or reports here. So if we want to send out B records, we would select the queued B records data view, and then we could just click export to get a preview of what that file is going to look like. Or if we're ready to generate the file and send it off to servicers, we click export, mark as exported. So again, that's kind of how the CDF records data view works at a glance. All right, and now let's move on to our next lesson, and that is data view extras. Data views, it's pretty cool. They can actually be sorted by any column that's displayed on screen. So a couple things to know about sorting. So you can know which columns have an active sort on them because they'll have a little arrow character. And then the direction of the arrow indicates the direction of the sort. So if it's an up arrow, it means it's an ascending sort. So starting at A, going to Z, smallest to largest. If it's a down arrow, it's descending. So Z to A, biggest to smallest. And if you've got a lot of different sorts going on, like say I just looked at this screen and I saw two different arrows, right? Well, it kind of order matters in sorts, right? So if I sort by application status and I see a bunch of active, and then I sort by last name, well, all my actives are going to show up first. So if you actually hover over any column header in the data view, doesn't have to be one that's sorted or not, or doesn't have to be one that's sorted. You can hover over any single column. That will show you the active sorts in their order. So the first one that shows up is the first sort that applies to your data view, and then second, could be third, fourth, however complicated you want to get through your sorts. how do we do it? How do you actually put a sort on? So clicking on a data view header will sort your data. Again, you'll know that it has taken effect because all of a sudden you'll see an arrow show up there. One click, it'll sort it. I believe it's ascending. A second click, it'll change it to descending. A third click, it'll take the sort off entirely. If you have a specific sort that you have put on a data set and you happen to navigate away, from that data view, and you come back, whatever sort you had on there before you left is going to be saved when you come back. Let's move on to filtering with data views. So if you notice in this screenshot, all these boxes show up here, right? You get a little text entry box at the top of every column with a little plus arrow next to it. To make those show up or disappear, there's this button at the top of the screen, turn filter in grid either on or off. This will basically, if they're there, it'll allow you to hide them. If they're not there, it'll allow you to show them. So it'll say on or off again, depending on what your current state is. It can be pretty easy to put in a filter that all of a sudden you have no records and you're like, I don't know what I did, or I've got too many filters on here, things are weird. If you ever get into a weird state where you have filtered your data beyond recognition, if you click turn filter and grid off, not only does it hide those text boxes, but it also clears away any active filters. So you'll basically start over from scratch. And then like sorting, any filter criteria you have set on a data view, when you navigate away and then come back, those filters will be saved. All right. So now a little bit more on filters, since, they can be pretty complicated. So again, to filter data, make sure you have your filters turned on for one. Then whichever column or set of columns you want to filter on, you'll filter by one column at a time. But enter your criteria in that particular box, then click on the plus sign and you'll see the different options. So, equal to, not equal to, greater than, less than, between. Contains can be a useful one. Like say you're looking for a name, but you're not quite sure how to spell it. You can just type a little piece of the name and contains will work there. Lots of different options. A few I'll go into more details on. Is null can be handy. Like if there's a question that you want to know if someone has responded to or not. If they haven't responded to it, the value in the database will be a null value, meaning there's nothing there. So if you select the is null filter, it will return records where the value in that column is null. So it can be handy for stuff like that. Not is null, I just want to know where somebody has answered this question or where we have any sort of data in this column. That's what that will get you. So again, I want to know, like say for tasks, I want to see all tasks that haven't been completed. So on this screen, we've got task completed date. I know that a task without a completed date isn't done, right? So I can say, give me all the tasks where the completed date is null, and I'll see incomplete tasks. And on the flip side of that coin, I want to see only tasks that have been done. Give me tasks where the completed date is not null. And that will only show me tasks where there is some sort of completed date. Doesn't matter what it is, just matters that there is one. All right. And then the last criteria I'm going to talk about is between. So this one can be a little bit confusing, but like say I want to know events that have happened in a certain date range. So say over the course of a given month, you'll use the between criteria. And if I want to know stuff that happened over the course of October, well, it happened between October 1st and October 31st. So what you'll actually do is type October 1st, and then the year, and then a space, and then October 31st in the year. So 10/1/2021, space 10/31/2021, and then select between, and it will give you all columns where again your criteria matches what that between or in the month of October. So it can be a little, it's not the most intuitive, I'll be honest, but pretty powerful once you get the hang of it. And now the last topic for this lesson, groups. So grouping in data views, when you have grouping, you will know it because all of a sudden you'll see these group rows, you'll see these gray rows that are essentially every single group. So in this one, it looks like we've got our data grouped by, it looks like assigned to is the criteria, and each different person that has something assigned to them is one group. So that's how you can know if your data is grouped or not. Useful for, you know, grouping applications by county, maybe disbursements by servicer or payee, applications by date. You can see a group of each application that has come in on a particular date, by type, you know, however you'd want to sort of, again, group or categorize your data set. This allows you to do that. All right, so you can group by more than one column, so you can get pretty advanced with your grouping. Again, all groups will have a header row. Groups are expandable and collapsible. So notice on the left side of these header rows, you've got these arrows. If the arrow is pointing down, it means the group is expanded. If the arrow is pointing up, it means the group is collapsed. And then lastly, how do we perform the groups? So whichever column you want to create a group out of, you'll actually click on that column and drag it to, there's a bar on the data view screen that says drag a column header here and drop it to group by that column. So that's how you actually create a group. Now, let's say I want to filter for applications that are assigned to one particular intake clerk. So let's say we've got somebody going out of town and we want to know what their workload is, so we know who we need to call in for help. Now looks like I've got a data set where intake clerk is a data element. I've got the name of the applicant, the application number, status. Looks like counselor is also data point here. That could be interesting. Hover over, looks like we're currently sorted by application number ascending. That's all well and good. But let's say I know, and some of you may be familiar with this person. So let's say Kelly Insenius is an intake clerk here, and she's taking a trip to Hawaii for the next 2 weeks. And we need to make sure that her work doesn't slip or someone is filling in for her. So what I can do is from this data view, our filters are already turned on. So I'll go ahead and type her last name in here as intake clerk. And I'll select contains. All right, and now notice my number of records is down to 81. So looks like she's got a pretty heavy workload. All right, so that is example one. how to filter for applications assigned to a particular intake clerk. Second example, I want to see overdue tasks. Again, this is probably something handy. I want to see stuff that is supposed to be done, but has not yet been done. So for this one, probably going to want the notes and tasks data view. Let's go ahead and click on that. Looks like I've got a grouping that's been left on there. So let's see. I only have, looks like only 28 notes and or tasks in the system. So not a whole lot going on here. But first thing is I'll just get rid of this grouping. So we'll start from scratch. First things I know I'm looking for tasks and only tasks. So notice we have both notes and tasks. So the first thing I'm going to do is filter out my notes. So two ways I could do this. I could say, give me things where this value is task. I could also do give me things where this value is not note. You know, again, kind of your creativity is going to guide how you work with data, especially in data views. So let's say, give me records where this field contains tasks. So it looks like we only have 13 tasks in the system. And then I want to know overdue tasks. So that would be a task due date in the past. So I will do today's date, which is the 9th. So I'll go ahead and say, I want days that are, imagine older dates are smaller, newer dates or dates in the future are bigger. So I want dates that are less than today is how that's going to work. So I'll say, give me less than 11/9. So we now got rid of one record. But I can see here, I also have a completed task. So I want to get that one out of there too. And so if you remember, like, I don't care when the task was done, I just don't want it to be done. So I can come in here and I can say, I know an incomplete task isn't going to have a complete date. So give me stuff where there's nothing for a completed date. So give me rows where a completed date is null, where there's nothing there. Now we got that completed task out of there. So now what we are looking at is these are tasks in the system that are overdue. So now last example here, I want to see all applications in stage 4 that registered before July 4th, 2021. Ooh, that'll be a fun one. All right. So how do we do that? So I am going to come to a different data view. So I need to know where folks are, so how they're progressing through a program. So I'll want to use one of these program data views, and I'm actually going to use the qualifications data view because I've prepared a little bit for this and I'm cheating. But on the first look here, one of our columns is registered date. So as an application was registered for a particular program, you'll get this registered date, and then whatever current stage that application is in, you'll see here. And so I want applications in stage 4 that registered before the 4th of July this year. So I'm going to turn my filters on. I'm going to say, we're going to have a 4 in this column. So I'll go ahead and say contains 4. So now notice we filtered down to only 11 records here. And all these records are where the program stage has a 4 in it. And then registered date, I'm going to now, since I want before July 4th, I'm going to enter that and say less than, And now notice I've got a bunch of stuff from June of this year. So these are folks that signed up way back in June. They're still stuck in underwriting. So this could be a view of, hey, these are applications we need to take more of a look into. All right. Now let's get to our last lesson. So that is creating ad hoc reports in data views. And we'll talk about private views, which are user-specific custom reports. So stuff that you as a particular user make and only you can see. Excuse me, and then we'll talk about public views, which are custom reports that an administrator creates that are available to anyone looking at a particular data view where that custom report exists. So after we get through this section, you'll be able to view custom reports in ProLink Plus, and you'll also be able to create custom reports in ProLink Plus. So what are public and private views? Well, as I mentioned, these are custom reports. So what are they used for? So let's say you want to see a particular data point in a data set on screen, but it's not there. Well, you can get it there by creating a custom report or a custom view and picking whatever columns you want. Let's say you want to pre-filter your data, so you don't want to have to keep coming in and putting the same filter in there. You can do that with custom reporting. And let's say you've got some sort of grouping or sorting that you are doing every single time you come into a particular data view. You can actually embed grouping and sorting into these custom reports and have it sort of stay with them. So at a glance, as soon as you drop into any one of these, your filters, your sorts, your groups will all be ready to go. You won't have to do them. They'll just be right away. So just kind of helps speed up getting data out of data views. So public and private views are custom reports. Private views are reports that you create and are visible only to you. Public views, again, created by an admin through the admin menu and are visible to all. How do we get into these things? So we've got the view manager on the top toolbar in any data view. If you click on this view manager, you'll get a little pop-up window that will allow you to create your own private view by clicking this new button. It'll also enable you to see the existing public and private views on that data set. So let's say there's a public view or custom report created by an admin that I'm not exactly sure why the data is showing up in a certain way. So from this screen, if I click on any one of these views here, I will come to this edit view screen. And there's kind of a lot going on here, but on the left side, you'll see all the different columns available in the data set. On the right side, you'll see the columns that are selected to be displayed and the order they will be displayed in. So top will be on the left, bottom will be all the way on the right. You'll see the view name. And then you've got advanced filter, which that's what this is a screenshot of, and any sort of pre-filter criteria that are a part of that report, you'll see here. So like, why am I not getting any records where there's an underwriter assigned to the case? Well, it looks like in this particular report, the criteria is that underwriter is empty. There's no value for underwriter. So that's why I'm seeing what I'm seeing. That can be useful for that. If you are in an existing view and it's a public view you're taking a look at, you're not going to be able to make any changes. If it's your own private view, this is how you'll make changes to it. We'll get to that in just a minute here. So now From the view manager, you can take a look at existing views, but you can also create your own new private view. You can create your own custom report. So after you click on that new button, you'll come to this edit view screen. Same thing from last slide. You want to pick the columns you want to see. So I'm interested in homeowner city, homeowner county. This is data that I want to report on. So you'll click the columns you want to report on, add them. That'll bump them over to this right selected columns. I can rearrange the order, click on any one of these, move it up, move it down, give my view whatever name I want. And then after you've selected your columns, gotten them in the right order, given it a name, go ahead and click Save. And that will create your private view. You can still edit it, nothing set in stone here. But after you've created your private view, maybe you want to filter out the data that's going to show in that private view. So you might want to throw an advanced filter or pre-filter criteria on there. So in this example, looks like we're only going to bring in records where the property city is not Mobile. So first thing is you'll get a drop-down list of all the different fields in your data view. Second will be operators. These are pretty similar to how, in fact, these are how filters work. Third thing will be the actual criteria. And notice you can, and there's a little arrow over here, you can set up more than one criteria. So you can get pretty advanced with these advanced filters if you want to. And if you've gone too far, you can always click this clear button and start over from scratch. So a lot of power available at your fingertips. Other cool stuff in the view manager. So let's say you've just been playing around with your own personal custom reports. You don't like what you've done. You have the ability to delete any of your own private views. You cannot delete a public view. Let's say there is a custom report, custom view that you like, that you want to use as a base. If you come into one of these, you can click this copy button. And what the system will actually do is create a new private view for you with basically built in the same way as the one you're copying from. So if you've got a good sort of base report, maybe you've got a good set of columns that you like to do some work on, you don't have to start from scratch every time. You can start from that report that you like, click copy, you'll get a brand new private report built off the old one, give it a new name. Now all of a sudden you've got basically two views for the price of one. Reset view. This, if you've just messed things up horribly and you want to start from scratch, click reset. It'll take you back to the default state, remove your filters, get your columns back to the way they were when they started. This is kind of a EGAD, go back to the beginning button. Ideally, you don't ever have to use it, but it is there. We will actually create a couple of these as an example. So let's talk about public views really quickly. So again, there's views on data views, our custom reports. We'll work predominantly with private views in exercises here in just a minute. Public views are custom reports, but they're set up by either us when we're implementing the solution for you guys, or a system administrator has the ability to set these things up. The way they are built is with the view manager, same way. You just get to it through the admin panel. You'll come into data views here. You can create and modify public views. Another kind of cool feature that you have is, as an admin, you can see the different private views that have been created. So I did say private views are reports that you create accessible only to you. That's not completely true. Admins can see some of the reporting that you have created. This can be useful. You know, maybe you've come up with something really cool and you're like, hey, admin, this might be useful for everyone to have. Well, that admin can see what you've done and actually copy it relatively easily. So that's why that's sort of baked into the administrative functionality in public views. All right, so that's what we had for public views. So let's go through a couple exercises. So first thing I want to do is create my own personal report of tasks that are assigned to me. So I want to know at a glance what I have to do. So I'm going to be using this notes and tasks data view. And instead of just filtering and sorting and grouping, I want to actually create a report. So I'm going to come into View Manager here. Looks like there's only the default, only what we started with. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new view here. My available columns are here on the left. What currently exists is here on the right. I know these are going to be tasks, right? I'm going to set up this data view so tasks are coming in, so that's not that important to me. I do want the text of the task though. So I'm going to select that one, bring that over. So I got rid of no task. I brought something else over. Let's say I don't want the task to be all the way on the right. I want it to show up just next to the title. So notice I selected it and moved it up a little bit. Next, I got to make sure to give my view a name. So I'll call it my tasks. And then I will go ahead and click save. So now my sort of the framework of my custom report has been created. I've got the columns I want to see here, columns I don't really care about over here. But I still need to set up a pre-filter or maybe a couple pre-filters. So first thing I want to do, again, these are tasks that are assigned to me. I don't really care about notes. So I'm going to come down to this notes task field. I'm going to say contains the word task. So that'll only give me stuff that is a task. But I also want to say, I want stuff that's assigned to me. So that means I need more than one criteria. So I will hover on this arrow, go ahead and say, and that'll give me a second row here. And we'll do assign to. And this is the name of who the task is assigned to. And we'll do contains. And I will put my last name in there. And so now it is giving me things where it's a task and it's assigned to somebody with Collyar in their name. It can help also whatever you've created up here in your advanced filters, kind of gives you a text description of what they're doing down here at the bottom. Additionally, if it's pretty complicated and you want to put some notes in there, you can do that down in this description box. So looking for tasks assigned to me. Now I'm done making my changes. I'm going to go ahead and save and close. And now looks like we only have tasks assigned to me. I can see my public views. These are created by an admin, available to all. Private views. Holy cow. So here I can see all the different people that have created these things, what they are. Interesting. Applications by first mortgage balance. This could be something interesting to look at. So I'll click on it, and I can actually come into the view manager here and see if there are any filter criteria, what fields have been chosen. Looks like there weren't any for this one, but that's how I can use those private views for inspiration. So even if you are not a system admin, have at it. Create custom reports. Have some fun. Excuse me. Whatever you do, if you happen to stumble into something cool, it's going to be available for an administrator to perhaps take and make available for everyone. But I guess bottom line, if there's something you're doing repetitively in data views, you can create a custom report out of it, so you don't have to come in and do your filtering and sorting every time. All right, so let's get back and let's wrap it up here. Didn't mention this earlier, but from any screen in the agency portal, if you are having trouble, the help icon at the top right will launch you into our fairly extensive help site. Everything I have just gone over for data views and much more is actually available through the help site. So if you happen to be on a data view and you're not quite sure how to get a particular filter to work, try the help site. It's a wealth of information on how to navigate the system. All right, and thank you very much. We'll be back in a little bit for our next session.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everyone, for joining the session. I hope you found great value in this session. As a reminder, a copy of Joe's PowerPoint is available here. You can also come back and watch the recording of the session anytime. Even after the conference is over, you are able to log back onto the platform for the next 90 days to watch any of the session recordings. The session survey is available on the right side of your screen. Please provide any feedback you might have on this particular session. In the survey, there is a place where you can type in any outstanding questions that are not answered during the session. We have one final session left on day one of the conference. I hope you're enjoying the conference so far. By now, I'm sure you're familiar with how Coffee and Bagel works. Please join Coffee and Bagel right now to meet and chat with other attendees. We'll be randomly selecting one participant and award a $50 Amazon gift card. So please participate and spend some time with other attendees. The next session starts at 3 p.m. Eastern. So I'll see you then. Enjoy the break.